Tonight's Dhamma talk is entitled Past Life Karma. Let us start off by giving you an interesting story. For us, Buddhists, it's not difficult. We understand or we already accept the karma and past lives. But for many people in the world who are not Buddhists or Hindus or who don't believe in past lives or life after life or don't believe in reincarnation, it's kind of difficult. In fact, there's one monk who does not even believe in rebirth, but he's a monk because he believes that by becoming a monk he can reduce his suffering and eventually achieve peace in this life. He does not believe in rebirth in the sense that he's like an agnostic. He says that you cannot prove nor disprove rebirth. But there are many cases that have been publicized. Now with the internet, more and more people are coming out with stories of how their children will relate to their parents, their past life experience. And now with the internet, people are more open-minded. And instead of shutting up the children and say you're talking nonsense and so forth, they are now more willing to listen. And so now we get a lot of stories in the internet coming from ordinary people who say that they have had glimpses of past life, as well as their children telling them very strange stories of behaving in strange ways. Now this one happened in the early 20th century, 1921. There was one person was born in Hungary. You know Hungary is in Europe, a European country. It's very strange that this boy, when he was born in Hungary, he had never read any books on Africa. But when he was 4 to 5 years old, this person called Gideon, he developed the habit of drawing people with brown skin, dark brown skin. And then the mother is a white woman, so she will tell him, you've colored your figures too dark. But he would ignore her. Then when he was older, when he was 6 or 7 years old, he told the mother that actually in a past life, he lived in a different country with people who had a different culture. He said, the people there were not like you. They were dark-skinned and they were all half-naked. Then the mother would ask him, say, why don't you draw me a drawing of how your home looks like? And then he drew a hut with a conical roof, a thatched hut. And she drew a woman there with long breasts, hanging breasts. And then the mother said, why you draw this woman with such long, ugly breasts? And then he was very angry, He said, no, that's not ugly. It's beautiful. She's my wife. There was in a past life standing in front of his hut. Sometimes he would ask the mother, he said, Mama, why is it now when I get up early in the morning, the first thing that comes to my mind is to jump up quickly and go and start hunting for animals to feed my wife and children. But then when I open my eyes and look, I'm in a different place now. And he realized that I'm your son now, not the head of a family. Then one time, when they went on a holiday, on a family outing, they went to a lake somewhere up in the mountains. And then when the mother tried to coax him to go into the lake, he started to shout and scream and get hysterical and dare not go near the water. But he didn't have the same sort of fear for artificial swimming pools and ponds. Only when natural lake, he will be frightened. And then another time he said he lived in a place where the vegetation is very different and the trees are also very different. The trees are like palm trees, long trunks and then with leaves at the top. And then he said that he used to make boats out of these trunks. They will carve the trunks and make a boat. He could paddle the canoe that they make and he was very skillful in the canoe. So one day, when the mother brought a little dinghy and then he insisted he wanted to row. But then the mother said, no, look, if you want to row, you must learn how to row. You must go for rowing classes. He says, I don't need. I already know how to row. I'll show you. So he jumped into it and then he started to paddle, with a single oar. Small little boy, and he could maneuver the dinghy, all around like an expert. He said, in my former life, And that time, I could sit in my canoe, and then I could turn upside down, and then come out the other side again, without sinking. He was such an expert in rowing a canoe when he was an African tribesman. And he said also they were living next to a huge river, but nobody dared to go into the river. Why? Because there's a monster inside there that will bite you and eat up your legs. Guess what it is? A crocodile. A crocodile. He doesn't know what it's called, but this is a big monster inside there. Nobody dares to go inside the water. So that's why he has a natural fear for natural water bodies. But artificial, man-made one is okay, but not natural ones. When he was 13 years old, an incident happened. A neighbor came running to the house and told the mother. He said, look, your son has climbed up the tree. It's about 60 over feet high. He's right at the top there. You better ask him to get down. 13 years old, And so the mother looked around and, the trees there are not like our coconut trees, the trees in Hungary, they're like fir trees and all that, and a lot of branches. Couldn't see him because he's up right at the top of the tree. So the mother was very scared, insisted that he came down immediately. And then he said, what are you doing up there? He said, I built a nest up for myself. And then when you give me corn, I go up there and eat. It tastes nicer up there than down here. Past habits, And the mother was very angry at him. He says, that's dangerous. Come down quickly. And then he came down. And he came down like a monkey, And the monkey was so scared. And another time when he was about 15 years old, he asked his mother to buy him a drum. So the mother took him to the music shop in town and he looked for the largest drum, brought it home, and then he started to drum like a professional, It was very, very complicated and sophisticated drum beats. Very un-European, all these Maasai, all these African drums. Later on, when he became an adult, and then he would go with her mother to see documentaries or films about Africa. Whenever he sees them, he will start to cry and have all these probably memories of the past. So what does this story show? This story shows that what you do now can actually carry forward to the future. Because what you have done in the past will carry forward to the future. It's never gone to waste. It's just how much of it retains and when the causes and conditions are there for it to come out again. That explains why child prodigies, like Beethoven, he could write a symphony at the age of 12. And people who are so talented, a lot of musicians, they are just talented. They don't really have to attend any music lessons. And they are able to compose and sing and play music instruments with such skill. Also, you have mathematical geniuses and prodigies. And also, we have child prodigies who can meditate very well at a very young age. Even during the Buddha's time, there were stories of 7-year-old samaneras who became arahants. Actually, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how far you can go. You just keep on walking. You just keep on practicing. You don't compare your own practice with other people's practice. Because others might progress faster than you because they've done it before in the past life. And you, in the past life, enjoying yourself, now only you start to practice, you expect to compare with others. How can? Unfair, right? So, you have to be fair to yourself and to others. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare others to yourself. Don't say, how that person, I cannot even sit still for 15 minutes. I can sit for 1 hour without moving no need to be proud. There's also some story that I heard about a housewife in Burma who has never done any meditation before. Then she was quite late in her life, She came to the monastery and started to learn meditation. And within a few weeks, she could get all the jhanas, she could recall her past life. Whereas there were monks and nuns who have been ordained for 20, 30 years, still trying to meditate, cannot even get concentration. And she can do it within a few weeks. Part of the practice of this meditation center is that you have to develop your meditation to a very deep state. And then you try to recollect your past life. And you try to find out what happened on your deathbed. What happened before you died and how come you are born in this life as a woman. So she was instructed by her meditation teacher to look back into the past to see how she came back as a woman and what she was doing before that. So she looked and she found that actually in her past life, she was a forest monk. She was a forest sayadaw. You know what the Sayadaw? Sayadaw is quite a high-ranking monk teacher in Burma. And in his old age, he was actually very sick and bedridden. And then there was this lay devotee, this lady, lay supporter, who was taking very good care of him. Just before he passed away, he opened the eyes and saw this lady tending to him, and he was full of gratitude, very grateful to her. That was how he died. And then after that, the next thing she knew, she was born as a woman. I mean, when she meditated, she could reflect and saw that that was her past life. So the question is, how come a meditating monk, forest monk, could become a woman in the next life? If it's really true, he just had a deep sense of gratitude towards her. How could that be the cause and condition for him to become a woman in this life? And then somehow a housewife, not a nun. That we don't know. That's a question mark. So it's no reason for her to be proud, because things happen like that. Sometimes we cannot explain. Now there's another case of another monk. He's a village monk, very senior monk, Sayadaw, and who had many disciples. He also died and was reborn in the same village in Burma. Now he was reborn in the village twice. First time as a girl. When he was reborn as a girl, the girl could recall her past life. She was actually that Sayadaw in a previous life, but she dare not tell anybody. I think she felt kind of embarrassed, shy. But then that girl also died young of illness. And then she was reborn as a boy in that same village again, in another family. But this time, because he's a boy, then he was braver. He could recognize all his disciples, who are now very senior monks already. They are now the abbot of the monastery where he used to stay. But he is now a small little kid, and he could remember his property, his belongings. He could remember the names of his disciples, and he started to call them by name rather than by respectfully say Bante or Sifu or Sayadaw. He called them by name. And his disciples were so amazed by his ability to recognize them that they also sort of pampered him, because he was their former teacher, so they pampered him. And one of his disciples heard about this. One of his disciples was staying elsewhere in another township, and he heard about this news that his former teacher had now come back as a child prodigy. He came back and he heard that this child was being rude, calling the monks who are the age of his father, calling them by the name like a young disciple. So he came back actually to teach him a lesson. He tried to tell him, he said, well, in the past you may have been our teacher, but now you're a boy and we are your teachers, you should treat us like your teacher, not like your disciple. But this boy was a bit difficult to talk to. So this disciple of his, who's now a Sayadaw, started to interrogate him, started to find out how old she was, and then the previous personality died. And then he found out that there was this space in between. They say this person was born, this present personality, this boy was born, there's a gap of about 15 or 20 years in between. Say, okay, what happened in this gap? Before your birth, what happened? Then, after a lot of coaxing and interrogation, he finally said that he was actually a girl. Then when this student of his added up the dates, then he sort of tallied. So many years as this boy, so many years as this girl, and then just a few months or so after the Sayadaw had died. Then his student asked him, how come you became a girl? Then he kept quiet. He didn't want to say anything. So maybe something embarrassing happened, he didn't want to say. That put him in his place. So after that, he became more humble. Then this student of his managed to educate him to be more polite and treat his former students now as his teacher. Okay, so we can never really know what we were in the past. I have also one other friend in Burma. When I was staying in Burma about 20 years ago, this person was also a monk together with me. And he had a sister. And the sister is a reincarnation of his grandmother. So that means it's the mother's mother. Mother's mother came back as a daughter. So sometimes, this girl would be a bit naughty. When you are naughty, what to do? The mother would cane her lah. And then she would go sulking in one corner and she said, when I was your mother, I never cane you. Now you cane me. And so after the mother heard that, she also did not cane her again. So we are all interrelated somehow. We never know what our past is like. And our past also, as I said, is never gone to waste. It is actually accumulated. Now that's why we Buddhists believe in past life and how karma can help us from one life to another. And yesterday I also talked about how it's just so difficult to calculate our karmic accounts because karma is defined as intention, wanting to do, wanting to say, wanting to think, and these intentions happens almost all the time in our wakeful hours. So karma is created all the time, good and bad karma. And we never know when the good karma will ripen, when the bad karma will ripen. Even though it's considered to be good karma, to be reborn as a human being, life as a human being is never smooth sailing. It's always up and down. There's one sutta in the connected sayings of the Buddha, connected discourses of the Buddha on the sixth sense basis. The Buddha told the monks he will tell them about old and new karma. What is old karma? What is new karma? And he says that our sense organs, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, these are results of the past karma. Let's say if you've done bad karma before, you'll be born blind because you don't have the good karma to have the eye organ that is in working order. Some people, they are born with good eyesight, but somehow in the middle of their life, they suddenly go blind. So that is because of past karma. So when something happens to your organs, not due to present circumstances, suddenly you go blind, suddenly you go deaf, without any explainable reasons, that's probably because of past karma. But of course, there are also present circumstances. Like our friend was saying, his son, refused to listen to him, watch TV whole day, whole night, and then spoil his eyes. That one is not past karma, that is present karma. This present karma. So we can never actually really decide how much of it is past karma and how much of it is present karma. Yeah? But we try our best. For example, if somebody is diagnosed as having terminal cancer, that's not the end of the world. Because we have to be very careful. We cannot trust doctors nowadays. If one doctor pronounces or diagnoses you as having terminal cancer, you better go and get a second, third, and fourth opinion. Even if it gives you 2 weeks, you better make up your mind, or else you'll get into trouble. Take your time. This is just to scare you. People usually get panic and then succumb to it. Go and get more opinions because nowadays, because of the lack of moral ethics in our education system, very unfortunate that doctors are also sometimes unscrupulous. So, in such a case, then we try to get different opinions and we also try different therapies. Don't just try mainstream therapy. You could try other alternative therapies like Qigong or the Ayurveda, the traditional Chinese medicine, universal healing. Try whatever you can. Whatever works. If it works, then that is present karma. It is present karma that you're doing to try to offset past karma. Now, karma works in a very complicated way. According to the Abhidhamma, he says that any particular karma that you make can give results in different ways. In terms of function, it could be a regenerative karma, or it could be an obstructive karma, or it could be a supportive karma, or it could be a destructive karma. Generative, destructive, supportive, or obstructive. 4 types. One karma can produce 4 types of different results. Generative is in the sense that, for example, if you break the 5 precepts, you break any of the 5 precepts intentionally, then that creates the karmic potential of getting rebirth in a lower realm. If you kill a mosquito, you create the karmic potential of being reborn in the lower realm. But not 100%. Only the potential is there, but not 100%. If you save a life, you also create the potential of getting life or getting rebirth in a good destination. It's only a potential. It's not to say that you will, it's a potential. So we have done many of these things before. We have killed many beings before. We have also tried to save beings before. We have done good and bad deeds. So we don't know which one will outweigh the other. And we don't know which one will give a result first If your past good karma is not strong enough to destroy that bad karma, then it may be able to obstruct it. Good karma of the past can obstruct the bad results of bad karma. Or it can actually destroy the bad results of bad karma, depending on which one is more powerful. Now, bad karma also has the other aspect of supporting bad karma. Let's say you have high blood pressure. That also can be connected to diabetes. That also can be connected to other degenerative diseases in your body. So, one bad karma is supported by other bad karma to make you even suffer more. So, bad karma supports other bad karma to give bad results. Good karma will obstruct bad karma from giving bad results. So a lot of this interaction is going on all the time. We don't know which one is going to win. So we just try our best. So that's why when we get into a situation like being diagnosed of terminal cancer or very bad degenerative disease, then we have to take stock of our lives. Okay, what have you been doing so far? Ask yourself, what if you're going to die in a week's time? Have you fulfilled your life's ambition? What would you regret? If you can ask that question once a week, then I think your life will become more meaningful. You never know, They tell me that in UK, 1 out of 4 women will get breast cancer. So, it could be you anytime. So it's best that we always take stock of ourselves and ask ourselves, what are you actually doing in life? What do you want to do? Yeah, we are always chasing after things, following the rat race, not really looking back at why we are doing all this for. Is it really worth it? Okay, so anyway, talking about this karma. So karma can give results in 4 ways, to repeat. First is to generate rebirth somewhere, or to generate good results. The second is, it can also destroy the opposite karma. If it's good karma, it will destroy the opposite bad karmic result. If it's bad karma, it will destroy the opposite good karmic results. Or it can obstruct. If it cannot destroy, it can obstruct. It obstructs the opposite. But it can also support. If it's good karma, it can support other good karma, the results of other good karma. If it is bad karma, it can support the results of other bad karma. So it works that way. So karma is very intricate. And since we cannot really calculate our karmic account, then we can only talk in terms of possibilities and probabilities. Like nowadays, quantum physicists tell us. So, do as much good deeds as you can. Try to cultivate your mind. Guard your mind. The mind that is unguarded could be like a roof that is leaking. There's one sutta where the Buddha was talking to Anathapindika. There was one time Anathapindika came to visit the Buddha. You all know Anathapindika, isn't it? Anathapindika is the chief supporter of the Buddha and the Sangha during his time. He came with many of his followers. He came to see the Buddha, and the Buddha told him, he says, householder, it is important to guard the mind. He says, the mind that is unguarded is like the roof that is leaking. In the old days, the roofs were made of thatched material, and the frame was wooden. So if a thatched roof leaks and you don't patch it, what happens? After some time, the wood would rot, and eventually the roof will just cave in. So the Buddha says, in the same way, if you don't guard the mind, then the defilements would soak into your mind. It will soak into you, and your karma through thought, speech, and action will become rotten. When your karma through thought, speech, and action become rotten, then you will have an unfortunate death. What is meant by the karma of thought, speech, and action that is rotten? The karma of thought, speech, and action that is rotten refers to any thought, speech, or action that is motivated by desire, hatred, or aversion, and delusion. This happens all the time, most of the time to all of us, because we are not enlightened. If you really keep a watch on your mind, and you're really honest with yourself, you will see that almost everything that happens to your mind, to your thoughts, speech, and action, all motivated by desire. You want to do this, you want to do that, you want to eat to satisfy your taste. Yeah, you're hungry, you want to eat to satiate your hunger. You're thirsty, you want to drink to satiate your thirst. Yeah, you're bored, you want to read newspapers to give you some intellectual stimulation. You're bored, you want to go and talk with people just to make you happy. every time you want to do anything, it's due to desire or wanting to do something, to satisfy a desire. That's why we are still alive as a human being. If you were not to follow your desire, you are thirsty, you said, cannot follow desire, don't even drink. If you're hungry, don't follow desire, don't eat. If you want to go to the toilet, don't go to the toilet, don't follow desire. How can you survive? Cannot, isn't it? So, it is because of this desire that's why we are still here. And we cannot just stop our desire. Because you're already a human being. Too late already. If you want to stop, you should have stopped before you become a human being. Once you're a human being, you have to follow your desire. But, as lay people, we just have to restrain our behavior within the 5 precepts. You can have desire, you can go window shopping, you can shop as much as you like, as long as you don't break the 5 precepts. And you don't spend all that money and owe people. In the old days, my father used to tell me, neither a lender nor a borrower be. That comes from Shakespeare. And he would never borrow money, he would never lend people money, and he would only buy things when he has the money. Buy by cash. Nowadays, you enjoy first, pay later. Right? And you buy a new car, you enjoy yourself, and by the time you finish paying your debts, it's time to get a new one. So, you're all slaves of your desire. You cannot restrain your desire to save enough money first, and then when you really have enough money, take the cash and go and buy your product. Don't go and enjoy first and pay later. Okay, so, coming back to desires. So, as a layperson, at least, your constraints are not that much, only within the 5 precepts. As long as you don't break the 5 precepts, that is the most fundamental. Of course, more than that, you have to make sure that your family finances are in order, you don't overspend, and these sort of things. You have to save enough money for, your own health, insurance cover, your children, and so forth. Yeah, all these are all the worldly things that you have to think about. But besides that, this karma that we are creating in this life will become past life karma in our next life. Just like our past life karma is now giving results in our present life. Most of the time, there are many results of past karma that we cannot undo. For example, the proportions of our body. Whether you're born ugly, or whether you're born stout or thin or slim, or whether you're born handsome or ugly, you got no choice. You're born like that. And unless you are very, very rich, like Michael Jackson, he can change from black to white, Virtually impossible to change a lot of things. You can only try to change some things. For example, if you're born a spastic, you don't expect to become a normal person, right? This is something that you have to accept. Accept that that's the way it is. Some parents, they are born with autistic children. And it becomes a very big challenge to them, to the child as well as to the parents. But if we believe in the law of karma, at least it gives us some consolation. Oh, it's my karmic debt. Maybe, it's something that I owe my children, my child. Maybe this is karma ripening in such a way that it is giving me the opportunity to practice patience and humility and service. So in the same way, if you become invalid and then you become dependent on people to take care of you, sometimes it can be very depressing, right? To be dependent on a person, especially when you have been a very independent person before. Suddenly you got a stroke and then you can't move around. Every little thing you need someone to take you here and there, and you can feel very depressed about it. But, if you really have enough faith in karma, you should look at it as an opportunity for you to practice humility, patience. And the other party, who is the caregiver, should also use that. Look at it as an opportunity to practice patience and giving and caring and service. But it doesn't really matter whether you're a Buddhist and you believe in karma, or whether you are a Muslim or a Christian and believe in an Allah or in God. Because basically it works in the same way. If you're a Muslim or a Christian, you will say, okay, this is the will of God. This is the will of Allah. This is the way Allah wants to test me. And then you give in, you surrender. Same thing, it's actually basically the same. In the end result, the consolation is still the same. You surrender. You surrender either to karma, to Allah, or to God. And you just carry on with compassion. So believing in the law of karma is very important because it will help us. And a lot of times, a lot of things happen in this world which we cannot explain. And Buddhists are very clever, Buddhists and Hindus. When you cannot explain anything, you will say, Kamma lo, what else? MH370, Kamma lo. What else can you say? You cannot explain. Or else you come up with all sorts of speculations, all sorts of conspiracy theories. Nobody can prove anything. So, what's the point of wasting your time? You're wasting your time and energy, and then you get all worked up over things nobody can prove. So complicated, why waste your time? You've got more important things to do, Cultivate yourself, go and do good deeds. Don't worry about these things that are already past. Actually, it's karma. In a way, it is karma also. How else could it be? Even at 9/11 or so, hundreds of people died. A lot of people also say it's a conspiracy, it's all engineered by the US government. A lot of people say that, but nobody can do anything about it. It's done. It's done. You can't do anything. You've got to move on. Looking at the political situation in our world now, it's not much different from ancient times. Ancient times in China, for example, all the feudal lords were fighting against one another. The emperor conquered everybody and made everybody, subservient to them. And you've heard of this terracotta army in China, right? Spending so much manual labor and time and effort just to make this to satisfy the emperor. How much waste of resources and human potential that is. But compared to the atrocities that are happening today, not so bad lah. Governments all over the world, they are not very, very honest, and politicians always have an axe to grind. At least we are still better off than those people at those times. You compare ourselves with, worse situations, then at least we can have some consolation. There's one interesting thing about Tibet also. That Tibet now is under China, and the Tibetans have been sort of exiled, from Tibet. And Chinese are supposed to be doing a lot of atrocities on the Tibetans. Now, you may think that the Tibetans are very peace-loving people because Tibetan Buddhism is supposed to have a lot of compassion and peace and loving kindness. But then I saw one documentary which says that in the past, the Tibetans were savages, They went into China to attack the villages. At one time, they were nomads. Before Buddhism was introduced to Tibet, they were very fierce people. They were the believers of the Bon religion. And they did a lot of sacrifice and they killed. And so, now they say it's their karma. That's what they did to the Chinese. Now the Chinese are doing back to them. This evening I was going through some in the internet about these past life stories. They have this institute that researches into past lives and reincarnation. And they say that actually people from one life to another, they can actually go back from one race to another race. Or from one religion to another religion. For example, if they were, let's say the Tibetans and the Chinese, if they were the Chinese before and they were oppressed by the Tibetans, they could now come back and become the Tibetans. And they'd be oppressed by the Chinese. It's very strange. That's the way karma works. So that's why also now the feud between the Jews and the Palestinians have been going on for so long. They fight, they die, they come back again. They fight, they die, they come back again. They go round and round and never end. That's why the Buddha says hatred can never be appeased by hatred. Cannot. There was one story in the Dhammapada which talks about this yaka and this lady. This yaka wanted to eat the child of the lady. And this lady ran away to the Buddha and gave the baby away to the Buddha. And then the Buddha told the story. He says, you and this yaka have been eating one another's child, for how many lifetimes, So if you don't stop now, then you will continue for many more lifetimes. When I conduct bereavement services or memorial services when people die, we will usually talk not only to the living, but to the dead as well. We will tell the living and as well as the dead. Now, the deceased, you have gone beyond this world. But you may still be conscious of what is happening around because you have not completely left this world. You are sort of in the limbo, in the intermediate state. But it's important for both parties to forgive and forget. Important for both parties to ask for forgiveness from one another. No point holding on any grudges. No point having any more attachments. No more attachments to your family, to your property. No need. What for? You can't do anything to them. I can tell you one interesting story. That is one of our devotees in Taiping. She is the child of a very wealthy bookie. Illegal bookie. You know what's a bookie? Those who do the horse racing illegally. So now this bookie had two wives. The first wife and a mistress. So this lady is the daughter of the mistress. This bookie also, in the latter part of his life, he preferred to stay with the mistress rather than with the first wife in a separate house. And that's where his bookie office is. So just before he died, he got cancer. And then they took him to the hospital, and then I think he died in the hospital, and they decided to bring him back to his first wife's house. But after he died, he preferred to come back to the mistress's house. So he's there, for many years, till there, How do they know? Because nobody can stay in his room. His room is all red carpeted. Even when the mistress goes to stay in the room at night, he will come and disturb. Or when people go into the room, then the lights will switch on or switch off. The toilet light will be on or off. Or you can go inside the room and can smell the hospital smell. Because he was in hospital before he died. You can smell that. So one day this devotee told us about this story. And then asked us to go and help. So I said, okay, we'll try. And so we went in. We did some chanting. We did the metta chanting. And as I was chanting, I felt some energy in the room. Normally I'm not very sensitive, but in such a case, I could feel like my goose pimples, and I could feel something there. And then I asked my assistant, Kumara, to talk to the deceased, because his Hokkien is better than me. So I asked him to talk. I asked him to talk to the deceased. And then he talked to the deceased and said, okay, what's the point of staying around here? No point clinging on to anything in this world. If you cling on to this world, you can't get anything out of it. And the people around you here are also scared. So you must look at how much suffering you're going through due to your own clinging. Look at that. Look at your own suffering caused by your own clinging. Clinging to what? You're clinging to your possessions or what? And so as we were talking to the deceased, the lady started to cry. For no reason, she started to cry. After that, we finished the service. And then she told us, she also didn't know what reason it was that she suddenly broke out crying. She just felt very sad and started to cry. After that, we asked her again, how is the room now? Is it already cleansed? And he said, yeah, from that day onwards, no more. So actually, talking is very effective. Rather than just chanting something which you don't understand. On another occasion, this one is also very interesting. This one is near Taiping. You all have spritzer mineral water. Yeah, somebody gave me distilled water from Spritzer. Spritzer is just opposite my monastery in Taiping. They have a factory there. They also have a workers' quarters with Burmese workers. One time, we received an emergency request to go to the quarters because one Burmese worker who had just arrived in Malaysia for 1 month, and he's new. He had a sickness and he passed away in a mortuary. And he doesn't have any friends, no close friends, then they don't know who to contact and they don't know what to do. Because, like I was saying yesterday, a lot of Burmese young people now deranged from their Buddhist culture. They don't know what to do. And these Burmese workers have never come to a monastery before, although we are just opposite, across the hill. But anyway, there was one Indian local who was working there, and that Indian knows about our temple, our monastery, so he came to request for our help. So we went in there one day, after we collected food from our normal place. We went there, and again, the moment I stepped inside there, I could feel, very cold and the goose pimples all over. And I told my monks, okay, don't do anything, sit down, and let's just radiate metta. Okay, radiate metta to that being there. So after that, the Burmese workers did a bit of dana, made some offerings, and then we did some chanting. And then I gave a Dhamma talk in Burmese to the deceased. And I told him, look, you are now no longer in this world. You have gone into this world. You can witness that we are here, but we cannot see you. And no point hanging on to what is in this world. Your friends have invited us. We are forest monks. We practice meditation. We got good sila. And we are going to share merits with you. So please rejoice in these merits. And then think of the good deeds that you have done and fare on to a better destination. After my Dhamma talk, we are sharing our merits. And then after that, a few days later, I asked them, how's the place? because the ghost was haunting them, Every night the people there couldn't sleep. Before we came, the ghost was haunting them. And some of them could actually see him. Some of them could actually communicate with him, He was actually asking them, what shall I do? Where do I go? He's lost, right? He doesn't know where to go. So I talked to him in Burmese and I told him, better you go to a good destination. When we share memories with you, you rejoice and fare on. Ever since that time, the whole place was cleansed. So it can be quite simple. If you don't have any monks or nuns around, never mind, you can talk. Give a Dhamma talk. I can tell you another story. This one was told to me by a Dhamma friend. She's a woman. She's also a meditator, long-time meditator under Venerable Sujiva. This happened many years ago, I think just maybe more than 15 years ago, Now this lady friend had a girlfriend. And this girlfriend was murdered. She was just a young lady. She's single. She was murdered in her new apartment. And then what happened was, they sort of put the body in the coffin in the apartment. And then this lady devotee, this supporter, went to do the wake. And when she was there, she saw that there's a portrait, in our Chinese customs, you put a portrait of that deceased in front of the coffin, right? And she could see, the face looks very unhappy, very unsatisfied. And then the sister of the murdered girl also said she dare not go inside the toilet because she knows he's inside there. The spirit is inside there, still inside there, refused to go away. Still hanging on. New apartment or show ma. New apartment, your attachment is there, something new, you just got it, you want to stay there, you don't want to go away. So, my lady supporter, sat in front of the portrait and gave her a long Dhamma talk on forgiveness and saying this is Kamma. This is your Kamma, ma. You must have done it in the past life, now you have to pay back. So let it go. What's the point? Taking revenge is also no use. Talk to her. At the end of the Dhamma talk, the face changed. The face on the portrait, went back to a normal self. Okay, but that's not the end of the story. After that, this lady, devotee, he took a train or a bus from Penang to KT, Kota Tinggi. That time, Reverend Sujivo had a center there. He was teaching meditation. She went in there for a meditation retreat. And this spirit followed her all the way, Followed her in the train all the way to KT. And then when she was meditating one night, the spirit appeared in her. But it was only half her body. But the whole body was all bright, very bright and luminous. And then the apparition talked to her. He says, I came here to say thank you. I'm going off to a better destination. If not for you, I'll be stuck here for don't know how long. So, don't have to wait for me to come. Alright? Go and give your Dhamma talk. It's okay, it's not the chanting, it's the understanding. People cling on, they don't understand. And there's one thing I really appreciate about the Tibetan teachings is that this Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Totrol, it tells you that when people die, they go to this intermediate state and then they experience things in a certain way. So we have an idea of what it's like in that intermediate state. And then we can educate the beings who are actually there. Especially people who die prematurely, accident or having a sudden death. Such people tend to stay back because attachment. They cannot let go. Unfinished business. If you're very old already and then it's time for you to go, normally such people won't stay back. They will go. But then if you really have very strong attachments, you will stay back. So it's very important to tell the living and the dead, both parties must not be attached. If the deceased is not attached, but the living is still attached, the link is there. The bond is there. Cannot go. So both parties must let go . So it's very important to do that. Another time, there was a psychic friend of ours, a Buddhist. She attended a funeral wake. She was sitting at the table outside at the canopy, where they put a canopy for people to sit. And she saw a woman seated. And then there is another woman standing behind her, making very agitated gestures, hitting the woman who is seated down there. And later on, this psychic lady asked the house owner, who is the lady seated there? He says, oh, that is the daughter-in-law or someone related to the deceased. Because she could recognize that the person, the figure standing behind her and doing these agitative movements was the deceased. in spirit form. She was still very, had a lot of grudge against that person who is seated down there. So she's still hanging around because she cannot let go of a grudge. So it's not only attachment to things you like, but holding on to grudges also will hold you back. So that's why both parties must let go, both parties must forgive. Then only there will be a peaceful transition. So important things for you to remember. This is how past life karma, can affect your present life. Okay, maybe I should stop here and allow you all to ask questions.
Just now you talked about restraining behavior and restraining desire. I'm wondering, what's the difference between these two, restraining behavior and restraining desire?
The question is if there's any difference between restraining behavior and restraining desire. Now, behavior is a complex phenomena that comes about through the interplay of desires. But desire is just one factor that will influence your behavior. But desire also has a wide spectrum. There could be good desires, there could be very obsessive desires, it could be just a very functional desire, a desire to drink water to satisfy my thirst. There's also a desire, right? A desire to pass the examination, there's also a desire, right? A desire to help people, there's also a desire. So desire actually depends on, it could be wholesome, it could be unwholesome. But whether your behavior is wholesome or not will determine your good or bad karma. Wholesome behavior is behavior that conforms to the 10 types of wholesome karma. The 5 precepts included lah. If you behave in a way that is not harmful to people, you are honest, that is good behavior. On the other hand, if you cheat people, like you were telling about, all those pastors, or if you are harmful in other ways, in a very violent way, to yourself and to others, that's also not good behavior.
Reverend, what about animals? They also, like human beings, also undergo birth, rebirth based on their karma, and they're born in different circumstances. There are some animals who suffer a lot, abundant. So, are they also at one time human beings?
Okay, good question. Buddhists believe that life can proceed from one form to another. Could be born a human being, and because of our bad karma, one could be born as an animal. And there's one particular sutta where the Buddha says that being born as a human being is so precious that once you fall from the state of being a human being into an animal, then it's very, very difficult to come back to become a human being. How difficult it is. The simile of the blind turtle that comes out of the sea once in every 100 years, and then there's a tire floating there, and it just happens that the once in 100 years that this blind turtle comes out from the sea, his head will pop into the tire. How difficult it is. Why? Because animals have hardly any chance to do good deeds. Right? And if you're born as a tiger, what good deed can you do? You have to eat. You have to kill in order to eat. If you're born as a cow, not so bad lah. You eat grass, you're vegetarian. People eat you, but you don't eat other animals. So, it's very difficult to proceed or to come back as a human being once you fall into the animal realm. That's why in Buddhism we always stress the importance of appreciating the rarity and preciousness of human life, and to make the best out of it. Also, another thing is talking about animals. I always like to say this. A lot of people know how to do dana. Yeah, they like to do offering, they do charity. That's why, in the churches also, people donate so much money, 10% of their income also they're willing to give. So people who do dana, they do a lot of offering, do a lot of charity, but they don't observe their precepts. They don't observe the precept of not killing, not taking what is not given, not committing sexual misconduct, of not lying, of not taking intoxicants. They break these 5 precepts. But they do a lot of merits. Particularly those people who are involved in very dark livelihood, prostitution, drug, they get a lot of money. But they know that this is bad karma. But they are attached to their money, they are attached to their wealth, their riches, and their power. Then they try to compensate. They make big temples, they donate temples, they do this, they do that. What happens is that when you do dana, the karmic result of dana or offering of charity or generosity is that when the conditions are ripe, you will receive abundance in material wealth and pleasures of the senses. But where you are born, whether you are born in the lower realms or in the higher realms, in a good or fortunate realm or an unfortunate realm, depends not on dana and all, but depends on your sila, whether your precepts are clean or not. If your precepts are clean, you can be born in a good destination. But if you didn't do enough dana, then you will be like those people in Africa, in India. No dana. You are born as a human being, yes, but since you didn't do any dana, you don't have enough to eat, no enough clothing, no enough to drink, you suffer. Or if you have done a lot of oppressing and tormenting other beings, then you come back with a lot of diseases, a lot of suffering in the body. Now, those people who have done a lot of dana, but they don't observe their sila, don't observe their precepts, they will come back as royal elephants, come back as royal stallions, come back as pet bikinis of multimillionaire. Right? And then they can enjoy all the pleasures of the senses much better than a poor man in Africa or in Madras. But they cannot do merits. Right or not? You can enjoy that as a pet bikinis or a pedigree of a rich man. You enjoy all the pleasures of the senses that a pet can get. But you cannot do merits. Right? So it's like living off stale food. That is your stale food, eating up your good karma, and you cannot create any new karma. Okay, hope that answers the question.
Bhante, you were talking about people making a lot of good karmas, but I read that there's a last thought when you're dying, so that influences where the person will be born. So last thought is not good, then the person will be born in a not so good environment. Isn't that a bit unfair?
Well, that is a popular belief, and it may not necessarily be true, judging from the many cases that are reported nowadays. Some people, they die because they were murdered. And when you are murdered, it's not a good thought, right? I mean, you wouldn't die with a good state of mind when you're murdered, but yet they come back as human beings. They can recall their past life. And they can recall who killed them. This man was in Turkey. He was murdered, shot by a neighbor because his cow or his goats trespassed into his neighbor's land. And his neighbor got angry, took a shotgun and shot him. He died. He was born again. He could recognize his murderer. And whenever the murderer passed his house, he would take stones and throw at him. But then he was advised by the researcher's interpreter. So if you do that, then next time he will take revenge and then you will get into trouble. So he managed to convince the child to forget it. So even though this child was murdered in the past life and he wasn't in a very good mental state, but he came back as a human being again. It's not necessarily true. The other thing is, when does rebirth actually occur? The Theravadins believe that rebirth occurs immediately after death. But the Tibetans and the Chinese don't. They believe that there is an intermediate state. You don't take rebirth immediately. You take rebirth only after a certain period. In that case, the last thought moment is of the intermediate state rather than of that human life that you died in. That's why Tibetans give so much emphasis on the intermediate state. They say that if you can influence the intermediate being, then intermediate being's mind is 7 times clearer than that of an ordinary person. So if he has pre-trained in the Bardo training before, in the Bardo teachings before, in that lifetime, and he can remember how to practice, or he's prompted by people around to practice, then he can progress faster in his spiritual path.
What if, cases whereby there are bad people and then they go to court and is the person carrying out the injection or by shooting or by hanging, do the bad karmas come to them too because it's their job to protect the society?
The question is, if a criminal or someone who is creating a lot of harm to society was sentenced by the judge, given a life sentence or given a sentence of execution, would the judge as well as the executioner be responsible for the karma of killing? Okay? The Buddha talks about bright karma, dark karma, bright and dark karma, and neither dark nor bright karma. Okay? So dark karma is very obvious. It's all those unwholesome things. Bright karma is also very obvious. All those wholesome things. Dark and bright karma is karma like what you say. It's both dark and bright. On the one hand, it's dark because you're sentencing somebody to die. On the other hand, it's bright because you're helping to create peace and safety in society. So it's both. So when you do dark and bright karma, you will get dark and bright results. Same thing. So maybe next time this judge will become a criminal and you'll be sentenced to death by another judge the same way. Just like they asked me, how about telling a white lie? Is it breaking a precept or not? Taking a white lie, for example, during the Nazi time in Germany, if they were all out to exterminate the Jews, alright? So you have some Jews staying in your attic or in your cellar somewhere, and then the army or the police came and asked you, okay, you got any Jews around here? And then you say, no, I don't have any. Alright? They're telling a white lie, isn't it? It's true. You have, but you say don't. You don't have, but you're saving their lives. You see? So there's also dark and bright karma. So maybe next time, same thing will happen to you. Somebody will tell a white lie to save you. Okay?
Because I have heard a part of story. There's a conversation between the king and the Buddha. The king asked the Buddha, you're teaching, let's say, we create a lot of good deeds, and then we have to wait until we are die, then we can get the result. Something like that.
So your question is, you have heard somewhere or read somewhere that a king was talking to the Buddha. The king was telling the Buddha that you have been telling us to do good karma and then we get the results after in the next life, right? But the Buddha says, no, you get the results right now in this life. Is that what you're trying to say? And you want me to explain? Okay. In terms of time of ripening, after a karma is created, the Buddha talked about three times. One is it can be in this immediate life, or it can be in the next life, the immediate next life, or it can be in later lives after the next life. It could be in this very life, the next immediate life, or other lives after that. After other lives after that means the second lifetime onwards until you attain Nibbana. So it depends when the karma will ripen. For example, this immediate means in this lifetime. It's like when you study hard, you pass your examinations, you get your certificate, you could say there's a present life karma because you study hard. You cannot just say that, oh, I just depend on my past karma. I don't need to study one. I just pray to God. God help me. Cannot. Yeah, you have to put in effort, then only you will reap your present karma. That is the present one. But then, like the story I gave right at the very beginning, about this boy who could remember his past life as an African. He could row a boat, he could play the drum, he could climb up a tree like a monkey. All these things he didn't learn in the present life. This one was in a past life one, but it followed him. So we can never really determine exactly how much of a karma would give rise in this present life, how much percentage will give rise in the next life, and how much percentage will be ripened only in future life. We don't know, but it is possible.
Okay, let's say a person has done a lot of bad things, in this present birth, and then suddenly there's a change, and he starts to be very spiritual, and sincerely does a lot of good things. Maybe he goes into very spiritual matters.
Yeah.
And so the past, what he does, can it be sort of
Okay. There's actually one interesting sutta where the Buddha gave an analogy. It's an analogy or simile of a pinch of salt. If you put a pinch of salt into a glass of water, the water will become salty, isn't it? But if you put the same pinch of salt, the same amount of salt into a big pond or into a river, no effect at all. Right? So the Buddha says, two persons may have done a similar amount of bad deed. Yet, first person might have to suffer a great deal because of that bad deed, whereas the other person might only have to suffer an insignificant amount. And he says, why? Because the second person is developed in body, speech, and mind. It's not because of the good deeds you do, like do dana and all that. If you cultivate your thought, speech, and mind, purify your mind, then you become what is called Mahatma, a great self. When you reach that state, then all the bad karma in the past, they will ripen, but very insignificantly. Okay?
Is it being born in the body of a female as a result of retribution of bad karma?
Sensitive question. If I say yes, tomorrow no food for me. How? That's what the commentaries say. Yeah, I don't recall having read this in the suttas. Yeah, but that's what the commentaries say. Okay.
Does karma actually happen to ourselves or can it pass on to our next generation?
Oh, I see. That's a classic Chinese question.
People who have done a lot of bad karmas do they actually go to hell after they die or does actually exist?
The second question is about if people do evil things, do they go to hell, right? Well, like I said, it's all a matter of possibilities and probabilities. You do evil things, you create the potential for going to hell or going to lower realms. Like you cheat people of billions of dollars, you create the potential of going to hell or going to become a ghost, or after you have paid some of your karmic debts in hell or in the ghostly realm, when you come back as human beings, you will also be cheated again and again by people. So those people who were cheated by the pastor, probably is their bad karma. Remnants of their past bad karma. Okay, so anyway, so it's only a potential. A person may have done a lot of bad deeds. You may see that this person is a very notorious evil person in this life. But in the past life, he might have been a very good person. Nobody knows what he did in the past. Yeah, so we cannot just simply judge by this one single lifetime. Cannot. When you see in this one single lifetime, we see a lot of injustices. Yeah, and it creates a lot of anger and resentment and dissatisfaction. Yeah, so because we cannot see our past lives, we just need to have faith. Right? Okay? Now, regarding whether karma can be transferred, from the Buddhist point of view, no lah. Cannot be transferred. But then you create causes and conditions. For example, Chinese believe your feng shui for your grave is not good, then it will affect your future generations. Right? Not? Okay, this could be due to the possibility that the deceased is still trapped in this intermediate world. And this deceased has got very strong attachment to certain expectations of how the future generations should behave, or they have very strong grudges towards somebody in the family. And because of that, in their spirit form, they can influence future generations. Because they are still ghosts, they are still spirits. But in terms of karma, no. We cannot transfer karma, good or bad.
May I ask a question regarding the difference between thought and feeling? Because we talked about guarding the five senses.
Yes.
But we guard feelings, or our feelings actually commutations of thoughts?
Alright. Now the word feelings in English has got a very wide range of meanings. In Pali, the Pali word is Vedana. Vedana means just a very, very basic sort of feeling like pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's all. In English, when you say feeling, it involves emotions as well. So, when we talk about feelings in the English usage, we refer to a complex phenomena involving thought, thinking, as well as physical reactions in the body. As modern scientists have found out, all of our thoughts will influence or trigger off our bodies to produce certain biochemicals. Whether it's a wholesome thought or unwholesome thought, it will trigger off certain glands in the body to produce certain biochemicals. And if it is a negative thought, it will produce biochemicals that make you feel miserable. Sour feeling in the stomach, your heart becomes very congested, your whole body is all heated up, you're burning with anger, burning with lust and all that. These are all manifestations in the body of thought. So that we call emotions. And it's also mixed with the way you think. But in Pali, very simple, Vedana means it is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Yeah, if it's more than that, then it's not just Vedana, there's a combination of thoughts, feelings, volitional formations, perceptions. That is the normal usage of the word emotions, because it involves also what you think, how you think, your perceptions, and so forth. Okay? The question is everything that happens in life due solely to karma? Well, the Buddha pointed out in one particular sutta, because in one particular sutta there was one person who came to the Buddha and said that he believed that everything we experience in life is the result of past karma. And the Buddha says, no, that is wrong view. The result of past karma is only 1 out of 8 factors. And out of the other 8 factors, some are, I can see if you can remember all of them. The first one is due to the humus in your body. For example, due to too much wind, too much fire, too much phlegm, or too much combination of these three, phlegm, wind, and fire. Then there's a fourth way. That could also lead to unpleasant feelings in your body. Another one could be due to improper care of yourself, of your body. Another one could be due to external influences. Somebody tried to murder you. One is due to your own carelessness. And then the other one is due to somebody else's effort to harm you in some way. Then finally is due to karma. Now, karma, like I said just now, the Buddha says karma is what? Your sense organs are all karma. Your ear is the result of past karma. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body, and your mind. These are the results of past karma. And what is present karma? Present karma is the intentions in your mind that you create every time you respond to what you perceive through the senses. You see something, how you react, how you respond, how you perceive with intention. That is karma. The eye itself, the ear itself, the nose itself, the tongue itself, the body itself is the result of past karma. But how you react or respond to what you perceive through the senses is present karma. You understand? Okay, so not everything is due to past karma, but they are related. There's also another group of 5 things we call the order of seeds, the order of the weather, the order of the mind, the order of the Dhamma, and the order of Kamma. 5. Kamma and the niyamas. So the first one is about seeds. All seeds have the potential for growth. Right or not? If you plant a mango seed, you will get a mango tree. You plant a durian seed, you will get a durian tree. Possibility of getting a tree is there. Sometimes the seeds does not sprout. So that is the order of seeds. It's not due to karma. That's the way it is. And then second is due to weather, temperature. Seasons or weather or temperature changes. That is also an order by itself. And then the next one is Citta Niyama. Citta Niyama is the order of the mind. The nature of the mind is that it can know an object. The nature of the mind is that it is intangible. It is not something that you can feel or touch, but it is there, and its nature is to be able to cognize, to know, be aware of an object. That is the nature of the mind. So certain characteristics of the mind, that is what we call the order of the mind. Yesterday I was talking about 3 important principles. The 5 senses can only take present objects. The mind can take past, present, and future objects. The mind can only take one object at a time. These are all the order of the mind. And then the next one is Kamma Niyama. That is due to past karma, karma and resultants of karma. Like what we talked about just now, the eye, nose and all that, these are the resultants of karma. And present karma. If you do something with intention, that is creating the potential for future results. Then the last one is Dhamma Niyama. Dhamma Niyama are the laws of the universe, the laws of nature. For example, you say that everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory and not self. That is a law. The law of impermanence is not impermanent. The law itself is not impermanent. It's always there. Whether or not anyone discovers it, whether or not anyone formulates it, it is there. For example, if somebody becomes an arahant or a Buddha, then all his defilements are eradicated and they never appear again. That is a law, the law of the Dhamma. That's the way it is. So these are the things that happen due to certain orders, immutable laws of nature. One of them is karma. So not everything is due to karma.
Just want to ask a question. Does it mean that in this present life, if you can live longer in terms of age, if you can live longer means that we have good karma from the past?
The question is, if in this present life we can live longer, does it mean that we have done good karma in the past? Okay. Do you want a long life that ends up like a vegetable? Or do you want a short life that is healthy and happy? It's not the length of your life that is important, it's the quality of your life. What contributes to long life? The Buddha says that if one abstains from killing and one gives life, that will give you long life. But if you kill a lot, that will shorten your life. If you are very cruel and you create a lot of harm to other beings, then you will suffer a lot physically in your body.
This question is really about working environment. Sometimes in a big company, we tend to deal with very difficult people. And we try to, let's say when we try to do our job, people are just looking at difficult and that create a lot of anger in us. But if we, so sometimes we just wish that this person is fired or something like that. For example. I'm not talking on behalf of me, but I do know a lot of
Yeah.
face a very difficult task. So, but our intention is we just want to deliver for the company, but these people make it difficult. So how should we actually think and not to think so that we don't create a bad karma for us?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. There's one sayadaw in Burma called Sayadaw Uktamatara. He lives up in the hills in near India. They call him the Metta Sayadaw. And he always says that Metta can solve a lot of problems. If you have a difficult person to deal with in your office or a government official or somebody, what you need to do is you take a bowl of water or a glass of water, and then you take a crystal or a marble and you drop it in, and then you imagine that person and you say, oh, may you be cool, may you be calm, may you be happy, may you be well. You do it from the bottom of your heart, The person will change his behavior towards you. One thing. If he doesn't change, he doesn't become better, then he will leave. He will be posted somewhere else. Actually, it has happened to us, in SBS. Our place is the last freehold land. Okay, next to it is already the zone that is a buffer zone. It's a gazetted buffer zone to the forest reserve. But, the Malays, they have, much earlier, they have gone to claim certain pieces of land, illegally, say this is my land, this is my land. So each one have got staked their claim of 2 acres or so forth. So because our place is up in the hills, we get our water supply from the springs. So we have to build our own reservoir outside our territory, where the spring is. And it happens to be in this fellow's territory. And then this guy came in and demanded a lot of things. So we tried to humor him, but we didn't really give him much. He was very belligerent, always want to come and find trouble with us. And he would come with his shotgun and then go into his place and fire a few shots. So we did a lot of metta to him. Every night during our chanting, we do a lot of metta to him. After a few months, he got a job somewhere else, so we never saw him again. Okay, they tell you another interesting story. This one was somebody from Kuching. And this fellow was a sales rep. He sells medical supplies to doctors. So, one of his very good clients, very good customers was a doctor in Brunei. So he went there one day, went to visit him, and unfortunately, maybe the doctor was not in a good mood. Went in there and then he was dismissed. I said, "Don't come and see me again." So this fellow went back and was very upset because he was his best customer, and then now he has severed any ties with him. So he went back and every day during his evening chanting, he would do metta to him. Consistently every day he would do metta for quite some time. And then his next trip, when he went there to see him, the person has changed completely. He treated him like an old friend. He said, "Hey, come and sit." So he re-established his good relationship with the doctor.
So, when you mentioned doing metta, is it when we chant, we imagine this person, or we specifically mention this person when we chant?
Not just chanting. One important thing is to actually feel it. You put in a glass of water and put that marble or glass crystal and let it drop there and say, "May you be cool and happy," just like this.